will ask you, sort of around 85, you alluded to this earlier. That's when Vince McMahon is really putting the pressure on all territories, inadvertently or not inadvertently, and taking over the wrestling world, basically. When you were still in Montreal, more locally and everything,
international wrestling.
Yeah. Did you basically see Vince McMahon as the enemy?
Definitely. But the funniest thing is 1984. I know Bravo and Gino Brito and Ricky Martel and the Giant, because they were not using me to my full capacity. Were not using me to, I thought, my full capacity, or to where I wanted to go at, to my ambitions. So I was very unhappy the way I was used on the cards, because Raymond and I, we were advertised on the card like third match or fourth match. And in the main event, around 7 and 8 matches, was Rick Martel and Dino Bravo tag team or something like that, or Dino Bravo in a single. And I didn't have a problem with that because it was their business. But the problem became, to me, a problem when I'd show up at the arena and I'd see the advertising of the poster where we're on third or fourth match. And then he would always ask me every night to finish the night. Like, he'd put me on 8th and he'd put himself on 3rd in the evening during the card in the dressing room. So we would have to follow everybody's hard work to finish the show like this. And so we were doing all the work, but we were paid for the 3rd and 4th match. And that's where I started feeling uncomfortable with our relationship. And I told Dino, I told my 2 brothers, actually, I said, listen, this is not going well at all for us. We're losing all our merchant value, our value in wrestling, because this is a hometown, and we need to be taking care of. The Rougeaus in Quebec are like legends. My father and my uncle and all that, my great uncle. And so we were losing our merchant, our, how can I say that? Our value. Like, when people, whether it's wrestling is fixed or not, they like winners. And if you're not in that position of a superstar or winner, you'll lose that credibility, whether you like it or not. So I explained to my brothers, I said, hey guys, we must put pressure. So we got to quit. And when he finds out that there's no Rougeaus on the card and doing all the hard work at the end of the evening, then he's going to put us in the position that we deserve to be and paid the way we deserve to be. So I asked my brothers to quit. So my brothers quit with me for about 4 months. And then came the winter. I was going back down south to Atlanta or a territory like that, somewhere to work all winter. But my brothers, they didn't do that. They stuck around, and they would only wrestle locally, but now they wouldn't wrestle at all. We had separated from Dino's organization, the local organization. So from then on, it took about 3-4 months, and then Dino kind of swerved his way back into my brothers' minds, and he gave them a better position. And when that happened, I was in Pensacola, Florida for the Fullers, Robert Fuller. I was working for him. And at the time I got a call from my dad, who told me, hey, Jacques, Raymond and Armand are going to go back wrestling for Dino. I said, no, don't do it. I said, we're putting pressure. It's been 4 months now. They're starting to want to talk to us now. He says, he already talked to Raymond and Armand them. I said, well, what do you mean I already talked to them? He says, well, they're gonna wrestle Monday night in Montreal. I said, what? They can't do that now. They're taking all our pressure that we're putting on, like their leverage. So they did it anyway. So when my 2 brothers went for Dino again, I said, okay, I'll just go with that. So in the meantime, Pat Patterson, who was right-hand man for Vince McMahon and for Montreal, and a friend of mine, a friend of Raymond's and everybody, he saw the opportunity. So he called me in Pensacola. And he asked me if I wanted to go do a wrestling show in Montreal for the WWF. They're going to make their first show in Montreal at the Verdun Auditorium, which is not the big event. It's only like 5,000 people. But they're going to make their first entrance into Quebec and into Canada. And they would like to put you on main event against Samu, the Samoan. So I told Pat, I said, oh, yeah, I like that. It's receipt time now. It's like, I'm going to show these guys that I was right, that if my brothers would have stuck by me, we would have had what we wanted to, and we never would have opened the doors to WWF. So when I went to do that show during the winter, I flew up to Montreal because I was down south in Pensacola. So my father came to pick me up at the airport. And my father was so funny. He was begging me, don't do that show tonight. Don't do it. He said, Dino gave me a message to say that he's going to give you anything you want, everything you want. Just don't work for the WWF tonight. And I looked at my dad. I said, I'm working for them tonight. I gave my word. I'm going to sold out, and I'm going to do my job. I'm going to be there. And in my head, I was saying, well, the hell with Dino Bravo. He should have took care of me when he had me, and instead of taking my brothers back and leaving me on the outside, like, the black sheep. Then I said, no, I'm going to do what I have to do, Dad. I said, and my father said, no, you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't do it. And he was driving the car out of the airport. And I told my dad, I said, Dad, if you don't want to take me to Verdun Auditorium tonight to see me wrestle in the main event for WWF, then just drop me off here. I'll call a cab and I'll go myself. And so my father looked at me and he was so upset. And so he says, okay. He says, I'll go. But he says, you're making a mistake. And by that time, it was the end. Because after that, I went back to Dino after I did that shot. I came back home in the spring, not to wrestle, just to come back home. And Dino came to meet me, and he gave me the titles, and he gave me everything I wanted. And he said, Jacques, I said, okay. But in the meantime, Pat Patterson and I had stole the show that night with Samu. I did a great, great match with him. And I was over like $1 million. The people on time because I was on the road. So when I came in, I made a good impact when I came in. So in the meantime, when I went back to Dino to start going back to my old life and having my better position in international wrestling, Pat Patterson kept calling me, Jacques, Vince wants to meet you. Vince wants to meet you. And he kept calling me he called me for almost a year. And I kept telling him, I'm okay here. I got my boat, I got my paradise here. I'm well paid. I'm well taken care of. Yeah, but Jacques, he says, Vince would like to team you up with Rick Martel. He would like to make a great, great team with you and Rick Martel. And I'm saying, I don't know. I don't know, because I was thinking at the time, all these monsters and gorillas that were in the WWF, they were on steroids, they were on drugs, they were freaks. A lot of them were just out of control. And James, I got to tell you something about me. I may have this tough look sometimes and everything, but I'm not a tough guy. I'm a guy who likes to laugh in life and have fun. I joined wrestling because it was a work, because it was a show. I'm not a street fighter. I never had that in me. I don't have a streak of violence in me. I don't go out in nightclubs after the shows. I wasn't the guys that go in for the girls at night. And I was a very serious guy with my brother Raymond and a lot of guys. I do my work, go to the gym, but I always try to avoid fights in the dressing room because I didn't have it in me. I wasn't just one of those, like my brother Raymond. He's a tough guy. Maurice Vachon, they were tough guys. There's some guys who are really tough and they like to fight. And they like to scrap and all that, but not me. So all this to say, where was I going with this?
You got into wrestling because you weren't a tough guy and it was a work, and Dino Bravo and going to the WWF in '86.
Yeah, so that's it. So the thing was, thank you. My girlfriend's there back and helping me out too. The thing is for me to go to the WWF in those days, I was so happy at home with the situation, my boat and all this, like I was saying, the fame and everything. And I was afraid of going in that jungle. I called it a jungle when I was young, and then finally after a year of calling, Pat Patterson calling, and Vince McMahon trying to call me. And it was so funny because Vince was calling me in my home, my little home I had. And I was living with one of my friends at the time. We were sharing this place. And he kept answering the phone to Vince and saying, oh, I'm sorry, Jacques is not here. He's gone on his boat, but I'll give him the message, and I was playing hard to get. And I'll have to say that finally, when he asked to meet me, I said, I'll meet you at 2 conditions. The first condition, I want $5,000 a week. That's my deal. The second condition, I want to bring my brother Raymond in with me because I felt secure and I felt comfortable with my brother Raymond. I know we'd look out for each other. And so he said, done. So I said, okay. So then in 1985, there came the Rougeau brothers to the WWF.
That is not a bad pay package at all for guaranteed as well. I'll tell you, when there were so few guarantees back in those days.
It was like he always said to us, and we didn't always make our $5,000 a week, but sometimes we made more. So, we were in the average of what we wanted to make. But the thing that I remember the most of that first meeting with Vince McMahon in New York, when we flew into LaGuardia and the limousine picked us up, and it was the whole big deal there. Like, like me and Raymond were looking at it like we were Michael Jackson's. But anyway, and when we got there, I'll never forget the meeting I had when we agreed, we shook hands. And he looked, and I asked him, I said, well, where are you going with us? Where do you want to go with us? And he looked at me, and I'm sure he said that to many boys. And a lot of the guys are going to laugh when they see this. They probably had the same word told to them, the same sentence. But he looked at me and he said, Jacques, the sky is the limit. And, and when he said those words, I said, wow, I'm going into stars. This is amazing. And boy, what a talker he was. But anyway, awesome time, though. When you look back at that, it was moments of when you grow up in your career and you really think that you're going to become Michael Jackson or something like that, or famous like that. But it was good times, though. Good time.